again. Let's do it again. What do you think? Ladies and gentlemen, give it up one more time for Danny Glover. All the way in the UK for our first ever event, Comic-Con Yorkshire. Mr. Glover, how have you been enjoying Harrogate so far?
I've been having a great time. I've been having a great time this morning. I've been here 2 hours, and you guys talk so much, I only got 2 autographs signed. Oh. So, no, I'm kidding. I mean, but it's been fun. It's, you know what's so fascinating is the fact that you're young at heart. You know, I mean, you've seen the movies, you come here, you're having fun yourself, and that makes it. I'm happy for that. I'm happy that you're having fun, and I can add a little bit to that joy. And thank you very much. Thank you for being here today. You could be doing some other things, but you came to the old people's home right here and celebrate and made the old man feel good. Okay, all right then. So I'm not too old for this shit.
You are definitely not too old. We are so honored that you would come to this event. Again, it's our first one ever in Yorkshire, so Harrogate's been very welcoming. But out of your entire career, which, my gosh, round of applause for such an amazing career, so many amazing memories on screen that we have of you. Is there anything that you're particularly proud of as far as any roles that you've done? Any that really stick out in your mind that you're proud of?
I'm really happy that my grandparents, or both my grandparents lived to be 99 years old. So when I would come to a small rural farm where my mother was raised, but she left that farm and went on with life and a great life. And I'm so, in some sense, my grandparents' response to it, and my grandmother and my grandmother and grandfather, they didn't know exactly what it meant that their grandson did movies, you know, because when I was doing Places in the Heart, which is my favorite film with Sally Fields, my work was actually for my mother, and so my grandparents, when they saw the movie, the first thing my grandfather said was, "Boy, what you know about picking cotton?" And I said, "I don't know anything, but I don't have to know everything about picking cotton. I can watch you, and there's an encyclopedia on picking cotton, you know." So, and he, that's the first thing in response in real time, you know. And then my grandmother, when she saw The Color Purple, she said, "I'm gonna get a switch after that boy." You know what a switch is?
I do. Oh yeah.
You know what? You've been here with a switch before.
Southern mother.
I'm gonna get a switch after that boy treating that woman like that. And she was serious. So every time she was in a wheelchair at 99, every time I came to see her, she found a reason to hit me with a switch. But my grandmother was the queen of the switch. You know, she didn't play with the switch. She was serious with the switch. And she would always have to get your own switch. And so you had to pick the whipping, you had to pick the weapon of your punishment.
That's right. Yeah.
And you better come up you better not come with a small one. You come with a small one, you got to go back. But it was really, I think if there's anything that I really enjoy is the way that my fans and people, not all of you up here want my fans, but some of you are, maybe, shoot. But you'd all get a chance. I'm looking for a few iconic lines. You know the line in I'm Getting Too Old for This Shit? That was just improvisation. It wasn't in the script. I I was laying on the floor after I'd been flipped, and Dick Donner, Richard Donner, God bless him, he's moving on to the next stage. Richard Donner says, "Say something, Glover." And I said, "I'm too old for this shit." You know, it just come like that in a sense. And then it becomes the iconic line, one of the iconic lines of a really special franchise. And thank you again, once again, many more. And those of you who got your grandchildren, training them right, go see Lethal Weapon.
That's right. Definitely go see Lethal Weapon. I'm so glad that you mentioned The Color Purple, one of my personal favorites, which has now been turned into a musical. So if you can talk about either the musical, if you've seen it, and or your memories from working on the film.
Well, you know, I think it's going to be a musical, right?
It's a musical, yeah.
Well, I'm impressed. I don't know what Mr. would be like. Mr. Come and get it. Come and get it. I don't know what Mr. But I'm certainly not going to be singing in it. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's asked me. But yeah, I think this. There are things that when you have films that are seen internationally and appreciated, and have people around the world talk about not just simply Lethal Weapon or The Color Purple or other movies, but just be able to have them kind of think of that and retain some sort of memory of that movie and sometimes where they were where they were in their own life. You know, that's a very powerful statement and a very important statement for me. I want to thank you who've come here just to become, it's important not only for me, but for all those who are here today, who are participating in here. And I want to give you all just a hand of applause for being here. Making this, your presence here is what makes this happen. Absolutely. Your joy of film, the way in which you connect film with your own life in some sort of ways, and the opportunity to be a part of your life that way and to see you, and it's great. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Round of applause for everyone here. Exactly. We're all coming together for the love of film and TV. So Lethal Weapon, I'll ask one more question, then we're going to get you guys to ask some questions. So get your questions ready. We'll ask you to raise your hand in just a moment. But Lethal Weapon, oh my gosh. I mean, iconic in itself. When you were making the first film, I mean, was it something that you thought was going to be as big as it became? Did you know you really had a hit movie as you were making it?
You know, for your career, when all of us are successful, there's so many other people who are around it, and so many people who add value, who see some value, and see more talent in you than you see in yourself sometimes. There's a woman named Marian Doherty. They did a documentary on her called On Casting. She's cast some of the most iconic names in film in the last part of the 20th century. And I mean, there's a roster of men and women who got their first job, that showed them, that demonstrated their talent because of Marian Doherty. And there's a story behind all of us, you know. Because there's so many men and women, people from every step of your development. When you began in local theater, I started in community theater in San Francisco. In that sense, because I grew in community theater in San Francisco. And I discovered a South African playwright named Athol Fugard. And Athol Fugard was one of the very incredible voices in the struggle against apartheid. And I don't think, if I had not found Fugard, I don't think I would have been an actor. I would have been well retired as a worker in city government. I worked in city government at the Office of Community Development. So I worked in community development in San Francisco for 6.5 years before I decided I wanted to be an actor. And so I had not been able to find Athol Fugard, Fugard. I don't know if I'd be sitting on this stage right now, because he gave me a reason to use theater as a platform to have a discussion with people, but also to engage people and looking at theater as a vehicle of their own life, a vehicle in which it drew on the best of what we can do as writers, the best of what people can do as actors. Theater begins there. Before there was film, there was theater. In the earliest moments of human communication, there was theater. They entertain each other or to build community around stories and everything else. They become the harbinger of stories. They become the place where stories reside. So I came up through theater and was fortunate enough that someone thought that I can go beyond theater and go and do film and television and stuff like that, and then go even further to have a successful life and successful career. So, but there's so many people who are participants in my wife. I remember when my mother first saw me in a play. My mother first saw me in a play, a small play, a production of a great play called Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. And I was played Lenny, the slow one. And I remember my mother came in an audience in local theater at the Palo Alto Community Theater. And she looked around the room when I came into the audience. Nobody was in the room but her in the theater. And she says, she leaned over to me and she said, "Son, the people said you can act." That was so precious, my mom. She listened to all the noise, all the chatter after or during the play, and that became her anthem. And they say, and before they would say, "Well, what has he done?" Because I hadn't done anything, she said, "He hasn't done anything yet, but one day he's going to do something important." And I believe my dear, incredible mother would think that this moment that I'm with you is something important.
That's wonderful. That is so wonderful. Supportive of your mom. We have a lot of aspiring actors, directors, film students that attend Comic Cons. Would your advice to them be to start in the theater? Is that a good place to start if you're hoping to get into entertainment?
You're learning everywhere. Wherever the process of learning, how do you do great material? How do you find great material to do? You learn the craft of acting. You learn the craft of directing by doing the great challenging material that's available for it. And it's there, it's still there. If it were done when 'tis done, and well be done quickly. If the assassination trammel up the consequence and catch with his success, that this blow might be the be-all the end, but here upon this bank and shoal of time, we jump the life to come.
Love it. Love
all
it.
The same. You learn something from that. That first soliloquy from Macbeth.
Yes.
You learn something, and then it becomes lost in your.
Yes.
But those are things you do. But you're learning. You're learning from all of it, and you're growing from all of it. And I think I feel fortunate to be able to work with good material, have it come my way, be challenged by the material, to grow by the material, and lead me on to other material with other challenges as well.
Well, we're so honored to be learning from you here today. And I know the fans, I could sit up here and fangirl all day, and of course I could. But we have Karis in the audience here. Say hello to Karis, everybody. She has the microphone, so if you guys have a question, just raise your hand. We've got one there in the front row. We'll start with you, sir. Feel free to introduce yourself as well.
Hello, Danny. My name's Andrew. I'm the head teacher of a school for children that have been kicked out of school. They've been excluded. And tomorrow morning, I have to do an assembly where I'm going to talk to them to inspire them. What message could I give them from you to say, you know, this is what life's about, and more importantly, make me look really cool?
I'm not hearing everything, but could you?
He's teaching a class tomorrow to kids, and he wants something cool from you to say to them for inspiration. He wants to look cool, and he wants to inspire the kids tomorrow morning.
I congratulate, first of all, the work that you're doing. I love the word teacher in itself. My mother was a teacher. My sister was a fourth grade teacher. You know, the idea that you can inspire so many people and continue to inspire. And I remember my teacher. I remember my math teacher, Miss Lumber, when I was in the third grade, fourth grade, who realized that I had a difficulty reading, that I'm dyslexic. But she realized that I had this capacity to do math. And while I had difficulties with one aspect of the learning process, there was something that I had excelled at. And to find that and to encourage them that I'm here to find your own gifts, plural, and so that you can take those gifts into your life. And if they're not assets at this moment, there's a possibility that every time I read something, I can still remember the third grade or the fourth grade, you know, when I struggled, you know. And a lot of that was my own inhibitions and everything else. So it's so much what? They're inhibitions. As I said, my mother was trained as a teacher and taught. My sister was a teacher. Well, you can say I have two ex-wives who were teachers as well, too. That wasn't funny. Huh? No, okay, no, that's not because of them. That could be more because of me.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the amazing work you do. Any other questions, just raise your hand. We've got one all the way in the back there. Gentleman in the blue shirt, thank you so much. Oh, and he's got a very fancy T-shirt starring you. Look at that, Mr. Glover. Thank you.
Well, like you, Mr. Glover, I am definitely too old for this shit. But welcome to our fair land, first and foremost. When you embody the parts that you play, you've done heroes, you've played the villain on occasion. How do you find the focus to become either the hero of that story or the villain? What's different about how you approach the acting role?
Well, it's how you. I mean, if it's a great script or great play, you don't think about the idea of them judging them and being good or bad. The whole idea around the art of acting, I believe in character development, is trying to determine what does that character want? What do they want? And in the placement of that dynamic, in the assumptions of those dynamics, you find the course of action through which the journey in which the character gets to where he gets. If that makes sense in some sense, I'm going for where I need to get. I'm trying to find out what are the needs of the character, not judging him in that sense. I mean, if someone says, if you take Mr. in The Color Purple, first thing that people hated Mr. in The Color Purple and considered him and had a judgment about who Mr. was in The Color Purple. But kind of, Mr. wants something. What did he need? It could say, Mr. needed to be loved. I can make that as a choice. The feeling of love, of being of love. Mr. felt like he would want to express his own sense of love in some way. And the difficulty with that, or the challenge is around that, which is what gives us the story and the journey that Mr. goes on in the relation of the material in the play or the film. So I don't judge the character. You know, that begins to, what does he need? What does he need? You know, it's really, you find as Roland Kurt, a musician, said, bright moments, you know, and transformative moments. And that's the way it is. That's began, you know. Maybe Mr. won't have felt his own sense of being unloved, of diminished and everything else. And it was only when he opens up the space himself to be loved, he opens up the space to a new revelation and something that opens up in his life. So the idea of revelation, I think in that sense, what does that mean within the spirit of the playwriter's image of it, the idea of that. When The Color Purple, when, you know, my grandmother who saw The Color Purple and said she's going to get a switch after me because treating that woman like that. But in a sense, it creaks us to the journey, but we also, not only is it Celi's journey, or whether it is Avery's journey, sister, the other character's journeys, but it's also Mr.'s journey as well. And what he finds from here is his own revelation. And in some sense, it's a metaphor for life. You know, we're always growing. We're always finding different ways in which we can be better at who we are. And that takes a lot of courage. That also takes a lot of work as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Great question. Very good question. A brilliant answer, of course. And
thank you very much.
yes, I was raised by a Southern mama, so I know all about the switch and picking out the switch and the insult of picking your own switch. Yeah. Memories of that for sure. We have a time for just a couple more questions. We've got one right here. Hello, sir.
Hi, I'm Francesco from Italy. So I just wanted to ask you a question. We briefly spoke about other franchises. Just wanted to know what was your approach with Jigsaw movies? Because at the beginning it was, I know it was more of an experiment than a proper franchise. I know that people at the beginning didn't really expect to have this many movies, especially. And would you actually like to come back, maybe in a flashback, in one of the subsequent movies? Because I know that one is probably coming in the upcoming year.
I'm sorry, would I like to come back what now?
In the Jigsaw movies, in the Saw movies. Like the horror movies.
Horror film franchises.
Horror,
Jigsaw, Saw.
Jigsaw,
okay.
yes.
I find you know, I mean, some of us have our own way of working, and having that work that we do integrates my life. I could have been nearly 77 right now. I could have been retired from my city government job a decade ago, or more than a decade, 65. And I've had the opportunity to do the kind of, what I say, social work, or the kind of work in and connecting myself with other communities, unlike I could have imagined, to be here and to be part of this community and to have people talk to about their lives and stuff like, or mention how maybe the work that I did or a movie may have changed their life. All those are really privileges for me, in that sense. And I think I've retained the spirit of that, in the nearly 40 years that I've been doing this as a profession. And to think that I could be an instrument for bringing people together, of bringing communities together, I remember when I first met Nelson Mandela, I never had an idea when I was a student and reading some of his political thoughts, his thought about a new future for South Africa. And had I not been, as a citizen within in the activities of drawing attention to the system in South Africa, I might not have been an actor. I may not have done that, and I think all those ways, in different ways, if I had not, and it's hypothetical, but if I had not had the success that I had, I would have grown so much out of what was happening in my life from the time that, from the first time when I saw a bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. When I saw that bus boycott of people who looked like me, of children who looked like me, and then I saw my parents tied to television looking at that moment themselves, that was the most powerful moment. My parents had dismissed that moment, it had no relevance at all to them and everything else. Maybe that would have impacted me. So when I saw these men and women and children doing that, I knew that I wanted to be like them. I knew that I wanted to be like them, and in that sense, my parents, in the sense, as young parents, were also trying to find out who they were in the world at the same time. So when you think about that, who I am and why I am, all these different things, some people may not like my ideas, Some people may disagree with me and ideas. When I remember when I was asked a question at the university about what happened in 9/11, and I said, and the question was something like, if we found the people who perpetrated that hideous would you advocate the death penalty for them? I said, no, I can't be selective in advocating the death penalty. I am against the death penalty. You can't be that, and that was my position. Well, I was preparing to do a movie, Grand Canyon, and so a lot of Grand Canyon was about that. I was planning to do a movie, and some people who were some people had their own ideas, thought I was supporting terrorism. I said, I'm against the death penalty under any circumstances. I can't be selected up against the death penalty, or whatever it is. And so I think those are kind of when you're in the public space, you're going to ask you questions. And certainly, I'm a citizen first. Before I'm a citizen, I'm a human being. After being a human being, I'm a citizen. And I believe in certain things about being the responsibility of being citizens. You know, there were citizens who were marching on those and boycotting those buses in 1954, 1955 when I was a kid. They were citizens. They were citizens to be, or they were citizens already. And I consider that the most impressive and the most important thing in what we say when it's not uncomfortable for people to hear it, of what we believe. And that's been my MO.
Now, I knew that you did a brilliant portrayal of Nelson Mandela. I did not know that you met the man himself. Did you meet him before you played him in the movie?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Mandela, did you meet him before you portrayed
I met
Nelson
him.
Mandela? That's very cool.
I met Mandela. I read his ideas when I was in college in the late 60s, you know, because I followed that. And so when I met him, I had played Mandela. I was the first one to play Mandela in a film for HBO and Channel 4 in UK right here. From Channel 4 was a production we shot in Zimbabwe where I played Mandela, Nelson Mandela. Alfred Woodard played his, I can't think of her name right now, his wife at the time. And all of a sudden, there was some more tension because of that. And when I met him, he said, I saw the movie in jail, and thank you.
Wow.
He said that thank with him, you know. And he said, we came up to me and said, Winnie, meet your other husband.
That's so cool.
How could you ever dream that up? I mean, how could you ever kind of like be in a place and do something that you were proud you had the opportunity to do it, you know? But there's certain things that happen. I had read all those writers, and it's kind of, I majored in economics, so I was kind of looking at ideas around different ways of people how to see, and synonymously in some ways the struggle around the end of colonialism and with this Portuguese colonial, all those things were important. They were in tangent with the struggles of African Americans and everything else. And so I'm proud of the fact and feel fortunate of the fact that most of my career came at a moment where we all had to make ethical decisions on what we believe in. You know, no one is an island. You know what I'm saying? And so those are the kind of things I think have happened. But it came from my parents. You know, it came from my mother and my father, who were in the union. I thought the work that we were doing in the union as postal employees was so vital because they saw it as their own transformation and as their own learning growth around citizenship. Yep. So all those things just on one level impacted me, and certainly I just remember those moments, being 9 years old and watching those young kids walking, or parents, and walking with them to school and boycotting and boycotting the buses that were segregated. You know, who emerges out of that struggle for that? Martin Luther King emerges out of that. It was interesting. It's something interesting, and where he came to his first church, Martin Luther King, and when he came to the first church, the people said, "Well, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to have a meeting about this boycott." and everything else. And he says, well, I'm just getting here. Let me get my family settled and everything else. And he said, well, the people said, the elders of the church said it's going to be funny that you're not there because it's going to be at your church. That's what it means. It's going to be at your first church. And so he was there. These reluctant kind of citizens in that sense. He wasn't a great name. He wasn't a name that we speak with all the platitudes that we speak of him now and everything else. But he took on the responsibility as a human being and as a citizen to just out, this is unjust, this is my response to the injustice.
Wonderful. Well, I'm sure it was an honor for you to be thanked by Mr. Mandela for their performance, but I hope on behalf of everyone here, we want to thank you for your incredible performances over the years and all of the memories that you shared with us today. Any final thoughts for your fans or what you're looking forward to after you leave Harrogate?
Well, what am I looking forward to? Is what I'm looking forward to. I'm going. There's going to be some work. It's not the work like it used to be. I'm going to find some sort of work. Sometimes you forget where you need to travel, but I'm going to someplace to celebrate a film that I'm going to play a role in, and it's something that I think about. I mean, how do you get a career like mine? I mean, it basically you're trying to do the right thing, and everyone talks about Lethal Weapon or something else like that. That like I said, I'm 77 years old next month, and in July, and that is a kind of privileged to be able to be fortunate enough to be there and to be here and to sit there talk about it and know that the value and what my success not only just my success in its singular sense, but it's another success much larger than us as we try to figure out how do we make a better world. How do we make a better world for our children and our That's on mine. I got a grandson who's a junior in college. You know what I'm saying? So it's all of that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, ladies and gentlemen. First ever Comic-Con Yorkshire, and what a way to kick it off with Danny Glover. Let's hear some appreciation for the legend himself.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your insight, your candor. Harrogate, keep the love going for Danny Glover.
Thank you.
You are so lovely. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you so much.
You are so lovely. I'm such a fan. Keep it going, everybody, for Danny Glover.